One thing you might hear a lot of talk about, especially when it comes to good hitters, is something called a run batted in. Run batted in. And this is generally shortened, we just call it an RBI. So you might hear somebody say, how many RBIs does that guy have? So let's take a look at how you get credit, for an RBI. And so the first way is that there's a play that's unaided by error, and it's a play begun by a batter's safe hit that a run scores on. So RBIs basically they're looking at and they're giving credit to guys who have gotten a hit or done some positive action, and that allows a run to score. And so we kind of use RBIs as a way to keep track. How many times have you helped out your team by getting a run to score. So let's write down this first one, and we say there's no errors on the play, and it's a play begun by a batter's safe hit. So that's basically a way of saying, if there's a runner on we have our batter, we have a runner on third base, and so I guess probably one of the simplest ways is just that this batter, he would get a hit, say ground ball to the outfield, and this runner, he would come home and he would score. So then the batter, he'd get a single, and he would also get credit for an RBI. Say in the situation there are two runners on base, and this batter, he comes up and he hits one, really deep, way out, maybe it even bounces off the wall, and both these runners score. So this guy would come home, and then this guy would also have enough time to go to third and then come home. And the runner, he'd probably get a double out of it, so he would be standing here, but it doesn't really matter as long as he's got the safe hit. He would get credit in that situation because this runner scored and this runner scored, so he would get credit for 2 RBIs on that play. And so the rule book says that RBIs, obviously, they also include home runs. So let's say the bases are loaded, all three, first, second, and third base have a runner on, and the runner or the batter comes up and he hits, let's make it white because it's the ball, and he hits the ball out of the park. It lands, on the other side of the fence. Maybe there's a lucky fan out here who catches it, and this would be if the ball goes over the fence, it's a home run. And in this case, not only is it a home run, but because the bases were loaded, a home run with the bases loaded or something we call a grand slam. And that means that if you add all the runs up that scored as a result of this play, we have 1, 2, 3, and then the batter would also score. So we have 4 runs score on that play because of the batter's action. So the batter would get credit on that play for 4 RBIs, and that would be, as you can see, all the bases are taken up. So that's the most you can get on one play is credit for 4 RBIs. So his safe hit, and then the other part of this is it doesn't actually have to be a hit. It can also be an out. And in the case that it would be an out, it would be something like a sacrifice bunt or a sacrifice fly. So if say rather than going over the fence here, this ball only went this far, and it was caught by the left fielder, and then this runner here tagged up and he ran home. So the batter would then be out and the run would score. That would be a sacrifice fly, and the runner would get credit for the RBI. So I undid these and the out disappeared. So let's put that back here. Hit or out, and so that we could list them. We say like a sac fly or bunt or even an infield out. So if there's a runner here on third base and the batter grounds out to the second baseman, he gets a ground ball here, and the second baseman throws him out of first base. If this runner here scores, then that would be, he would still get credit for the RBI because the run scored, as a result of the play that he started. The second way that you can get credit, for an RBI means that it kind of relies on the fact that we're starting the play with the bases loaded. So we have this play set up, and so it might seem kind of like an easy way to do it, but any way this guy gets on base, even in an automatic, kind of one of those automatic ways to get on base, if the run scores, he gets the RBI. So even if he doesn't get a hit, say the first pitch comes in and it hits him, then he would get an RBI. Or if he walks, if you walk with the bases loaded, there's nowhere else to put the guy on, so this runner would come home and he would score. Everybody would move over one base, and the batter would get credit for the RBI. So we'll say, let's write that out. So a batter becomes a runner with the bases loaded and forces in a run. And so that's the second way. Let's take a look at the infield fly rule, as it tends to be one of the things that people get most confused over in baseball. First, I want to explain how the rule is applied, and then I want to explain why it is necessary, or at least why it is used, as some people would argue that it is not necessary. So basically, the infield fly rule is used to prevent the defense from turning a cheap double or a triple play. In order for it to be in effect, there needs to be runners on first and second base, or the bases need to be loaded, and there must be less than 2 outs. So we had this situation with guys on first and second base and say 1 out, then the batter hits a fly ball that in the umpire's judgment can be caught by an infielder using ordinary effort. And the umpire is supposed to yell out, "Infield fly." And when he yells this, the batter is automatically out. And so what this does is allows the base runners to stay on their bases, and it removes the threat of them being doubled off. One of the most important things to note is that where the ball lands, or would have landed if it had not been caught, is irrelevant. It can be in the infield or it can be in the outfield, as long as the infielder can get to the ball in the view of the umpire using ordinary effort. And this makes sense because if a high fly ball is hit just a few feet behind the second baseman, he might drift back and be in the outfield, but he would have plenty of time to get under the ball and catch it using ordinary effort. On most plays that the umpire calls infield fly, the fielder will catch the fly ball regardless. But if they choose to take the risk, the base runners may attempt to run, and if the fielder does not catch the ball, or he drops it for whatever reason, then the runners will move up a base as long as the fielder doesn't pick up the ball and throw them out before they get to the next base. The batter will still be out regardless, though. The runners can also tag up after the ball has been caught if they want to risk it with the ball being hit so shallow. Now, if the ball is close to the foul line, the umpire can yell out, "Infield fly if fair." And if the ball lands in fair territory, then the batter would be out. But if the ball were to go foul, it would just be the same as any other foul ball, and the batter would not be out. The exception to this would be if it is a bunt with 2 strikes that goes foul, because the infield fly rule applies to bunts too. And so bunting a foul ball with 2 strikes would mean that the batter is struck out. That would still take effect. So that's how the infield fly rule works. And as I said, it's there to prevent the defense from turning a double play. So if the infield fly rule were not used, an infielder could let a fly ball drop, quickly pick it up, flip it to second base, and then throw on to first base before the runner got there. Or, if the ball was hit towards the third baseman, he could let it drop, pick it up, step on third base, then throw to get the force out at second, and possibly even throw on to first base to get the out there, depending on the situation and how fast the runners are. Because, without the infield fly rule, if the ball were popped up, the base runners would probably have to assume that the ball will be caught by an infielder. And so they would stick to close to the base that they are on, which would then allow the defense to easily get that force out on the base that they were going to. Some people would argue that by allowing a pop-up to drop like that, the defense takes the risk that all of the runners could advance to the next base safely, and they would get no outs. And others would say that this should also apply even if there's only a runner on first base, because the defense could still easily turn that double play. But in any case, that is how the rule works, so I will let you decide if it is good or bad. But for now, though, it seems like the infield fly rule is here to stay.